I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Live Confidential Action for another edition of Real Debates. Now, if you're looking at me realizing I'm not Henry, yeah, you are correct. So, y'all know what that must mean. We have an exciting matchup involving that man. With no further ado, let's bring him in. Hey. Henry, exciting to be in the player's seat, I'm sure, again. How are you feeling this time around?
Pretty good. I'm currently 0-1. I lost to Rue, who ironically is one of the judges. Spoiler alert for that. So we'll see how that factors in. But yeah, another one of the judges he's going to play, but he's currently in a championship run over in a multiplex fan zone. So I want to give him a little break from this. But Brian Michaels. So I decided that we're going to get in the next run of secondary matches. So I said, hey, Pez, we both somehow lost our matches. You want to fucking fight each other? And he's like, obviously. So here we are.
Absolutely. Sounds like a banger. We will drop you back and we will bring in the aforementioned Pez Howell. Very rare for you and Henry to both take L's back to back. So not the normal circumstance we would see this match under, I would think. How are you feeling?
No, I'm good. But, Henry wanted this to be just more of a casual league where we just come and debate some just fun questions and do our thing, but still make it entertaining as we know how to do. Henry and I have done blind debates, where we just pull stuff out of our ass and just make it entertaining just on the fly. So, I don't think either one of us did like as hardcore prep as we would for like a battleground title match or anything like that. But that's not really the point. That's not really what he wanted with this debate league anyways. He wanted us to, think about it, write a few things down, and just kind of go off the fly, have some fun. Will did a good job when I fought him, and we had a really, you were there for it. We had a really good debate, and it came down to out. So yeah, we had a lot of fun, and it was a pleasure doing it. It's not like I'm not perfect over in battleground and things like that. I've lost to people, so but I'm just here to have a good time, and it's me and Henry, man. So we'll put on a good show for you guys.
All righty, we will bring Henry back in here. And Henry has opted to go second on questions 2 and 4, meaning he will go first on questions 1 and 3. Any questions, gentlemen?
No, shout out to you for writing. And then once again, just shout out to our judges behind the scenes based on the new format. We're not going to see them for an hour because we're saving the judgings to the end, but shout out Brian Michaels and Amaru Moses.
All righty. Well then, without further ado, the first question in the match. What if, of course, I lost my doc right, and then my phone shut off right as.
I got it on screen, so you can kind of utilize that.
Yeah. What if Arnold Schwarzenegger was in a Sly Stallone role, or Sylvester Stallone was in an Arnie role?
I didn't want to JB3 and have the fucking thing so long, so I knew you would get the point.
Thank you kindly.
It's another staple of the new league. It's a flip-flop question.
Yeah.
Flip-flop the roles, and let's see what
flip-flop roles question. I'm excited to see how this one goes. I will disappear magically, and Henry, your clock will begin when you begin speaking.
Right. Shout out Brian, who's running the timer. So yeah. All right, so obviously the what if concept is something that's new within the league. So for the judges, you got to go about the approach, not really knowing of what we would think. So in my personal opinion, if you're going to do a what if, you need to essentially improve the film and make it worth actually having the switch. You don't want to have a lateral movement where at the end of the day, it's pretty much the same exact thing. You just, hey, it would be cool to see them in a role. And you don't want to have a movie that is so bad where even though this person is going to, be interchanged, that it's going to technically improve the movie, but just by a few notches. So the movie I went with Tango and Cash, Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell, and I'm replacing Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously, with Kurt Russell. And the reason that I'm doing this is because Kurt Russell in that film is hilarious. It's one of those movies that is, pretty mid if you ask a lot of the people in terms of the buddy cop genre. And I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger would fit into that role. He would match the style that Kurt Russell is going for with the comedic, as well as still being a fantastic, action star and a cop.
All right, so on my end of it, I picked an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I picked End of Days from 1999, mainly because that movie was sold as just yet another sort of generic action spectacle, over budgeted, overblown, as just sold as Arnold versus the Devil. But instead, let's put Sylvester Stallone in there. Let's scale it a little bit back and bring it down a little bit, mainly because the role that Arnie's tasked with playing in that is a little over his head. He's tasked with playing kind of a street level New York detective who's a little depressed, down on his luck. I think Arnold doesn't know how to play that. The only things he really knows how to do in that movie to show his depression is to put stuff into a blender and drink, leftover pizza. He doesn't know how to play that sort of drama. Stallone has more of the range to actually bring a sympathetic aspect to that. He'd have better chemistry with Kevin Pollak, who's his partner in that movie, and he could play it more like he would in something like Nighthawks, where it's just a little more street level, right on something that Stallone has played. This New York kind of down on his luck detective. He's done that before, and he can do it again here in End of Days.
All righty, fantastic stuff there. Your 5 minutes will begin whenever the first competitor begins speaking.
After you, sir.
All right, so essentially, like I want to reiterate with these what ifs, you kind of want to have a swap that's going to improve the movie and actually be worth improving. You got to think about, if you're repitching this concept, essentially 99% of the same exact thing, it's never going to be 100% because they're different people, but about 99% of the exact same thing, you want to have an improvement. And like I said, around this time, this is right after Twins came out, and this is right after Red Heat when Tango and Cash came out. So Arnold Schwarzenegger proved that he can already handle the buddy cop aspect of it, both in a full comedic aspect, and not buddy cop, but just buddy comedy, but full comedic with Twins, as well as handling the duality of a buddy cop with Red Heat. And Red Heat's not as funny, but obviously it showcases that he can handle the street level cop stuff.
But to me, if you put Arnold in that role with Kurt Russell, he's going to overshadow Kurt Russell, and he's going to completely stomp him out with his over the top line ratings, with his over the top mannerisms, whatnot. He's just going to completely stomp out Kurt Russell. You're going to forget Kurt Russell's in that movie. The reason why Twins works is because there's such a different physical dynamic with Red Heat, is because he's doing the Russian thing against Jim Belushi. If you put him in there against Kurt Russell, and they're basically doing kind of the same thing, a buddy cop thing, it doesn't really work. That's why Arnold doesn't really do the buddy cop thing with somebody kind of on his level. True Lies, it's always like somebody completely vastly different from him.
Yeah, but
just another action star.
I disagree with that because just for the Kurt Russell thing, Kurt Russell was in a piece with a big cast in The Thing. He was also in something that was very over the top and crazy in Big Trouble in Little China, so he can never be overshadowed, even though he's in some wacky stuff. But like I said, the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, there's so many times that Sylvester Stallone attempts to do one-liners. There's only about 3 or 4 in the entire movie, but every time Stallone does it, it falls flat. Whereas in End of Days, when you're watching End of Days, literally I can close my eyes and visualize what is everything wrong about End of Days, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is not the issue. So swapping
it's absolutely the issue, because he doesn't know how to get any kind of sympathy from the audience. We never feel like he's in any kind of danger, because he is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's coming off of his superhero phase of the 90s, where he's literally the biggest star, and you're trying to play him as this low-level depressed
I want to ask you the question.
We never feel like he's in any kind of danger.
I want to pose the question to you. I'm going to let you continue, but I want to pose a question to you. Do you think that that's an Arnold Schwarzenegger issue? Do you think that's a script issue? Because everything about that film, it's a muddled thing that's just really trying to be too much.
It's an issue with Arnold Schwarzenegger because he doesn't know how to play that. Peter Hyams doesn't know how to reel him in, but he can actually reel in somebody and work and collaborate with somebody like Stallone, who knows how to play the drama and knows how to do that. I mean, the man got good performances out of Jean-Claude Van Damme, for God's sakes, and Time Cop and Sudden Death in the 90s. And Arnold Schwarzenegger had so much creative control at that point that he's just doing what he does, and he overshadows the entire movie. So we never feel like he's playing the character that he's told he's playing in the script.
Yeah, I disagree, because everything that you get in End of Days, Gabriel Byrne is kind of he's simple. I don't want to say, because he has his moments where he stands out, but for the most most part, he's pretty chill as the devil because he's trying to underlay it, and it's kind of the story with the girl and the mystery behind that. So he's already playing a low key like character up until that, you know, the end scene where it gets real wild. So if you have Stallone in that same exact thing, playing depressed and all that stuff, you're already going from a movie that's not as interesting, and you're making it even less interesting. Even with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's going to be.
No, I disagree because he could actually bring the drama to it and bring it and low scale again. He would know how to play more like a devil's advocate or an Angel Heart rather than just playing like another generic Arnold Schwarzenegger big budget action movie, which is what people are.
Yeah,
going
but devil's
for.
advocate and Angel Heart, that's Robert De Niro and that's Al Pacino. They're more charismatic. Like I said, Stallone doesn't.
Stallone has plenty of. Oh, like he is an Oscar winner. Of course he does. Or Oscar nominee. Excuse me. Of course he does. Like he's done the
that's all in the writing,
charisma and everything. Yeah, and the writing of the movie is there. It's just Arnold doesn't know how to perform the writing.
Yeah, but like you're thinking of all the charm and all the stuff of Stallone. That's in a movie. That's in, you know, character piece that he's able to build up in multiple franchises in Rocky and Rambo. Whereas in this one, it's a standalone one where he's going up against devil.
I didn't reference either one of those movies. You did. I referenced.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to utilize. That when you go that, it's not the same thing. It's not.
I reference stuff like Nighthawks and Copland, which again he's playing more street level cops. He's not playing some superhero character.
Because he can play a cop. He knows how. Just because he knows
play
a cop doesn't show that he's going to be good.
It's not just a cop. He's playing a guy that the audience can relate to and actually play that everyman more like a diehard Bruce Willis type of thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger only knows, especially in the 90s.
That's a perfect example. I would rather have Bruce Willis in that film than Stallone. And once again, like I said earlier, I have no issues with Arnold Schwarzenegger in that role. If I'm closing my eyes and I'm thinking about something I want to replace, I would rather have Willem Dafoe as the devil instead of Gabriel Byrne. When you actually think of Tango and Cash, when you think of that entire film, the only thing that is missing is the quips and the charm that we would get from Arnold Schwarzenegger with Kurt Russell.
But the reason people like Tango and Cash is because it is Stallone playing something a little bit different in that movie. Again, you put Arnold in there, it's just the same old Arnold overshadowing that. And the last time he played any kind of nerdy character that tried to be, you know, something a little bit different, it was Junior, and it was an absolute horrendous train wreck. And nobody wants to see that again. And you do that, you're just doing the same old nonsense.
Good stuff there, ladies and gentlemen. The audience there, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are both gentlemen, I think. It's okay if you're not. Any which way, Henry, your final minute when you begin speaking.
Okay, once again, so like I want to reiterate, when you think of the concept of the what if, you want to elevate your film, and unfortunately, End of Days is just so bottom of the barrel film that even if you brought Stallone in there, and I'm giving you a bone here, even if he did technically improve the film, it's not going to drastically improve the film enough to make it worth actually swapping out their roles. Whereas in Tango and Cash, that film is so middle of the road, and you think of what's missing in that, it's the fact that it's not as fun as it should be, and it's not as dark as it should be. And Arnold Schwarzenegger proved that he can both do funny and do dark, obviously as the Terminator, and obviously both in Red Heat and Twins right before, and he literally does Kindergarten Cop right after, which that's after, but it's literally just a year after that. I feel like deep inside that's slide. I mean, Arnold has that. It's not like 10 years later he builds into that. Just like with the Stallone stuff, it's one of those things. No one really took him as a good dramatic actor, honestly, until Creed, and that's way down deep into his career. He has moments where he can be brooding and all that stuff, but that's more in characters with Rocky and Rambo.
He said nobody took him seriously till Creed, despite the fact that 2 years before End of Days, he was in Copland, which he was seriously considered for Oscar nomination. So the audiences actually were warming up to Stallone being a full dramatic actor. He dabbled in the 90s as well, in the 70s, in the beginning of his career with Rocky. So that's a nonsensical statement. Again, you put him in that movie, he can bring the actual characterization. It's not just Arnold versus the devil. It's an actual characterization. You could bring a little more depth to that. He knows how to understand the script. He could tweak it a little bit, make it his own, and actually bring and elevate the material, as opposed to if you put Arnold in Tango and Cash, you're referencing stuff like Red Heat, which is a bad movie. So you put Arnold Schwarzenegger in there again, he's going to overshadow Kurt Russell. He's going to make it corny. He's going to make it exactly the kind of movie he would make it, which is the Arnold show. And Kurt Russell gets completely drowned out. It's just going to be more puns and more nonsense. The reason why people are still discovering Tango and Cash is because it's one of those kind of cult classics that's still finding an audience, because it is something different for Stallone, because it is of that buddy cop aspect with him and Kurt Russell. You don't need to replace that. You're going to make it worse. You're going to make it just another big Arnie quip fest and a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense.
Very, very good stuff. We'll give the judges just a handful of seconds to collect themselves as we move on to the second question here. Also, give me a second too quick.
Before you go on, and when you go into it, I just want to say for Pez, I have visual cues for this one just so the judges can visualize it. if it doesn't match your view of what you're going, don't use that against him. I picked images that kind of match. So if you don't like it, judges, don't judge that. Still hear what Pez has to say, but I just gave a visual.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Tato, you got it? Question?
Yeah, 1 second there. Alrighty. Alrighty. Your second question, we will have Pez going first on this occasion. This is a, this is the pitch, casting contest pitch for the purposes of the 2 minutes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking there. Alrighty. So the prompt these gentlemen were given on this situation: cast a Scream prequel centering around the murder of Maureen Prescott. They've each picked 4 specific characters, and that is where the primary of their argument will be. Pez, your 1 minute when you begin speaking.
Yeah, so just for the character sake of the judges, we're picking Roman, Billy, Cotton, and Maureen. So just to run mine down real quick, I picked current Jonathan Lipnicki, not child actor Jonathan Lipnicki, as Roman because he's still working today. For those of you who don't know, I picked Austin Butler for the role of Billy Loomis. I picked Bill Skarsgård for the role of Cotton, and I picked Allison Brie as Maureen. And yeah, so I mean, that's how I ran it down. And thank you for not getting the child actor of Lipnicki. I appreciate that. Because, I don't want a 6-year-old in there. But no, so, I mean, Lipnicki is himself. You want kind of more of an unknown guy who has like a horror background, which is Lipnicki, who most people recognize as a child actor, but haven't seen him lately. But he's still been doing good work both on television and on kind of lower level VOD stuff. But Roman, the actor who played him, was kind of an unknown at the time, and he kind of blends in with all the crowd. So you want somebody like that.
That's that. We're going to do a 2-minute follow-up after. So just 1 minute, 1 minute, then 2 minutes, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. All right. So when you think of a Maureen Prescott backstory, you kind of think of the things of why we pick these characters. Obviously, you need Maureen Prescott. We didn't choose the father just because honestly, you can have just a faceless person and not really kind of the point. Even in the Scream universe, that character's not the point. But mostly what you want is Roman Bridger at the center of it, because he's the one that we find out in Scream 3 kind of centers, kind of pieces it all together, and he hires, gets Billy to do his deed. And then obviously it's centered around the affair with Cotton Weary. So my Maureen, I'm going the other way. My Maureen is going to be Samantha Morton. Because I'll go into specifics later. And then my Cotton is going to be Jacob Elordi. And then my Billy is going to be Timothy Chalamet. And my Roman is going to be Aaron Taylor Johnson. And the reason that I picked all these casts, I genuinely think that they fit kind of the vibes as well as just the age ranges that we're going to want if we're making this prequel today.
Rue had a question there in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I took it down because I didn't want to block the timer, but yeah, that's that.
All right.
And like I said, visually, if anything's off, I kind of tried my best to match at least whatever. So, if Pez has any issues with the visuals, he can expand on it of what he's going for.
No, it's okay.
And then real quick before I got mine for a takeaway, there's mine. So if you guys want to visually see what we're going for,
maybe just put them up for each of our 2s.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
All right,
Pez,
so
whenever you start.
Back to me. Yeah. Okay. So like I was saying, Lipnicki, again, you want somebody that's a little more unknown, who can kind of blend in, but then, take control later. And I think Lipnicki could bring that. And again, he has a horror background, so that works. Austin Butler, that one's pretty self-explanatory. The dude has a ton of range. He looks like Billy Loomis. I mean, Austin Butler, if you go watch him in the Bike Riders, he looks exactly like Skeet Ulrich does in that movie. They have the same kind of facial structure. They can both play kind of a psychotic, but can also play, he can also play that kind of charm and have that charisma. We've seen that in the Bike Riders, but also obviously in Dune Part 2, we can see him play a psycho and be a physical threat. Bill Skarsgård is Cotton again. He has the size. We see that in Boy Kills World, that he can kind of bulk up, sort of like a Liev Schreiber. But he can also, much like Cotton, he can kind of be a physical guy and be threatening when he needs to be, but he can also pull it back once like he does in Scream 2, kind of in and out, where he can be like kind of unassuming. You see that in Barbarian with Bill Skarsgård, that first half of Barbarian, where you think he's going to make this kind of evil turn, and he doesn't. He actually ends up just being kind of a good guy throughout the whole thing. And then Alison Brie just has that vibe from Community and whatnot, where she just feels like kind of an old-timey actress. I think she could easily kind of slide into that role of like a struggling actress in Hollywood. She has that breezy, bubbly personality that you would have sympathy for. If she got into the situation where she was, about to get murdered, you could easily root for her. She has that charm to her. But she could also play the serious stuff when she needs to be. She could also do the physical aspect if she had to actually have any kind of fight stuff or back and forth with any of those characters. We see that in Glow. Obviously, plays a wrestler, so she can do that. And she's got that easygoing personality. So I think all these four would work together really well. Obviously, you have some very standout actors, and with Lipnicki, a guy who kind of got some acclaim when he was a kid and has continued to still work. And so, I mean, even as a kid, he was going toe to toe with guys like Tom Cruise. So easily here, I find it funny that we both picked the Elvis actor. I just think that's kind of ironic with Austin Butler and Jacob Elordi. We can talk about that later. But yeah, that's my rundown of the cast.
Okay, I will start. All right, and then so for me, I'm going to start off talking about my Marine, because that's at the core of what we're going with. Unfortunately, as much as we love the backstory and Rip Marine, she's a homely looking woman, and I kind of wanted to center my actress around that. And Samantha Morton, she has one of those abilities to be homely and kind of be like a regular person while still also being attractive in her own right, where you actually want to hook up with her. Negan as Alpha in The Walking Dead. But then so I just feel like it really shines there. I'm going with Jacob Elordi as Cotton, because when you think of Liev Schreiber, no one can ever replace Liev Schreiber, but there's essentially two things that you want from the Cotton Weary / Liev Schreiber character, and that you want a big guy, and then you want just a voice that you can kind of have that deep voice, and especially because in and out, is he good, is he bad, so you has that. Jacob Elordi does a fantastic job of that. Timothy Chalamet is my Billy. I'm going for a Billy because if you think about early days Billy, you got to think about someone who can be soft spoken as well as being menacing, and Timothy Chalamet does a fantastic job of that. If you look at just his one main scene in Dune 2 where he has that speech, he's yelling. That's one of the most scary things I've ever seen in a non-horror film. From that speech, Timothy Chalamet really shows that as well, just the physicality, but he also proved that he can be sweet, sexy, and charming, and in different romantic movies and all that stuff. But he also has, once again, that dark side that you get in like Beautiful Boy. And then last but not least, I have Aaron Taylor Johnson as a Roman. It's one of those things that if you can't really remember it nowadays, but I'm gonna remind you, in Kick-Ass, he looked exactly like Roman with the curly hair and the glass and all that stuff. And if he's proved it nowadays in The Fall Guy as well as Bullet Train, back-to-back years where he can be a chameleon. He's a completely different actor. And when you think of Roman, you need that person who can blend in everyday sight. Aaron Taylor Johnson with the glasses, but you also need him to have the ability to be menacing and dark and kind of be the puppeteer behind the scenes. I feel like Aaron Taylor Johnson would do a fantastic job of that. So when you think of these, I have a total cast that's really going to fit the vibe that you're looking for with this unfortunate Marine Prescott story, which is going to be an erotic thriller. I'll let you start.
No.
Hold on. Let Tato officially do hosting duties.
Oh, yeah. Just great stuff as usual, guys. And your 4 minutes on this occasion begins when the first player begins speaking.
I find it funny. We also picked a Dune Part 2 actor. The same thing. So we have the same minds. No, I think we're both kind of thinking the same things here. I don't have like a ton of criticism. I think Samantha Morton might be a little too old for that. I think you want to age her down just a tad. You pick somebody who's literally like in their 50s now, I believe. I would scale it down just a little bit. Alison Brie is like 42 now, but she still looks younger. She still looks like she's in her 30s. I think you want somebody who's maybe a little more innocent looking. Rather, and have that youngish vibe to her, the up and coming actress. Yours kind of feels like somebody who already lost it and never got it in the first place, as opposed to somebody who's kind of up and coming Hollywood.
So we'll start off and just talk about the Marine. So obviously, my Marine, like I said, Samantha Morton, she's a fantastic actress who proved that she can handle just the drama. Most recently in the Whale, she goes toe to toe with a character who's literally just the cover of that film in the Whale, and she has that dramatic stuff. But she also, is in The Walking Dead. Since we're both kind of talking about TV shows with ours, The Walking Dead is Alpha, and she can really transform into that character while still being, kind of a leader and menacing, but also being seductive. My issue with your Alison Brie is the fact that I just wanted to answer this question. She's in Scream 4. I don't know exactly what kind of mindset you're going with that, but also it's going to be very distracting for your audience members for the first like half hour of the movie. It's going to be hard for them to even understand, like, is this recasting? Is this just a mix up? How are we going about that?
I just more or less forgot she was in Scream 4 because I don't like that movie.
Well, that's fair. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. So we're going both of our cons. Bill Skarsgård versus Jacob Elordi. I think that they're both fantastic actors, and they both fit the premises. So worst case scenario, we'll go a wash there because we only have 4 minutes to talk about. The main one that we're really going to talk about is our Romans, because that's the other main character. Mm-hmm. And my thing is, I don't want to knock Jonathan Lipnicki because I feel like you picked him because you have, kind of that ace in the hole of things that. But honestly, when you're thinking of this type of character, you need him to be the lead. And even though your actor might be underrated, I don't think he can be the co-main lead and the puppeteer of the story, where Aaron Taylor Johnson, like I said earlier, he can.
But you need that unknown aspect to be the lead again, to slide in. The thing was with Roman when we watched Scream 3 is that dude faded into the background and then came back into prominence. I forget the actor's name. You probably know better than I do. The guy who played it. Yeah, Scott Foley. Like you kind of forget about him in that movie, and then he comes back into prominence at the end of that. You kind of want that same thing where Aaron Taylor Johnson, you're going to recognize him immediately. I mean, the guy's being talked about being James Bond right now. Like you're gonna know that there's something up with him immediately and right off the bat.
This is a prequel. It's not trying to be a mystery of like, oh, the twist at the end, like we did get in Scream 3. This is a prequel, so you're building that up. You're going to know from minute one when he's talking to Billy.
But you want to keep that same characterization where he can fade into the background. Aaron Taylor Johnson,
that's actually going to be able to do that
because
we're not talking about scripts in this one. We're talking about acting ability. Aaron Taylor Johnson will easily be able to do that while still also hammering home the screen when he's on screen.
Can he really when he's been boring in a lot of things and Godzilla and whatnot? Like, I feel like
we're going to talk about boring from something 10 years ago where that actual movie was boring. I don't want to have that. We're thinking about that. And also the other one we're going to talk about our Billies. Unfortunately for you, outside of the Elvis role for Austin Butler, he's essentially the new Tom Hardy, where he's just grunting the entire time.
He's not grunting the entire time. If you haven't seen the Bike Riders, he literally has whole sequences where he's just sitting on the bike, like looking at him, just laying on the James Dean type charm, which he can do. He can be quiet.
And that's not Billy. When you're thinking of how are you actually going to be menacing all stuff as a early teenager person, the sexy that's eventually going to be with Sydney and be that.
Because he does that in both Elvis and the Bike Riders. When he does have to speak, when he does have to put it on, he can put it on. He can turn it on. I'm just saying
there's a different charm of the bad boy versus the sexy pretty boy.
It goes to the range. We haven't seen enough of Laurie to actually play that. We haven't seen that much of him.
If you haven't seen Euphoria, that's a you problem. It's one of those things that as a high schooler, he's actually playing a high schooler in Euphoria, and he literally is one of the most menacing people I've ever seen on TV because he can literally punch a wall.
And so is Austin Butler menacing in Dune Part 2.
Starting with you on hosting things.
Hey, good stuff. Starting with you.
Okay.
1 minute closing, just a reminder.
Yeah. No, again, we have seen Austin Butler be both menacing and laid back and charming and intense in Elvis. We've seen him literally do every single type of emotion you could possibly do in like the span of, just a couple of years. I mean, he's won an Oscar. I mean, he's the man right now. Like he's the top-notch guy, and he could be kind of front and center in this movie. Again, Bill Skarsgård also has that range. We've seen that, because if you just know him from Pennywise or whatever, if you see him in Barbarian, something like that, where he can again play that sort of everyman, but can turn that scariness when he needs to on, or turn on that kind of everyman quality. He can do that. And Alison Brie, again, you need somebody a little bit younger, a little bit more innocent looking, who can still play that charm and whatnot, and still play that easygoing personality. But the Roman character, you need somebody who can fade in and then step up at the end, to maybe like and really, give him a challenge to kind of overshadow these other guys. And I think he could actually step up to that challenge. He stepped up to the challenge when he was 6 years old. He can certainly step up to it in his 30s.
All right, so everything that I said about Marine, I really think Samantha Morton did a fantastic job. I don't know how the judges are going to go about with the Allison Brie thing, whether it's a slip up, yada yada, but I do think it would be distracting for the audience of that. So I just think that's just a bad choice. When you have our Cottons, I do think they're both really good choices, but I do think the downfall with Bill Skarsgård is he actually did show, when he actually has his regular face, that he can be that soft spoken thing, but we don't really see too much menacing on him outside of the Pennywise character, and that's behind makeup and all that stuff. And then when you're looking at the Billy character, like I said, Timothy Chalamet has a good combination of sexy, dark, menacing, but also sweet and soft spoken. Whereas Austin Butler is just that essentially 99% one tone, one note. And then when you're looking at the Roman character, I love everything that you said in terms of what Roman needs to be. He needs to be behind the scenes and needs to eventually be out there. But guess what? Jonathan Lipnicki, nothing about him has proved that when he has that third act reveal, quote unquote, that he can handle that. Whereas like everything I said earlier about it, until John does that. Literally in Fall Guy, he doesn't really have that third act reveal until the end.
Great stuff, guys. We will once again give our judges just a second backstage to gather their thoughts. Good stuff as usual, guys.
That one was good. That was on paper. That was just the most interesting. I just didn't know how we were going to approach that because there's so much to talk about. And I do think we did a good job.
Yeah, I found the crossovers ironic though when we submitted our stuff. I was like, oh, that's all weird.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I was like, yeah. Oh well. Obviously, we're really good friends for a reason.
we thought alike when it came to this, so that's fine.
Okay.
All right, Tato, you ready for 3?
One moment. Okay. Sorry, just wanted to make a quick note. Alrighty. Question number 3. What is the most underrated performance from an actress in the 2020s? Henry, your opening minute when you begin speaking.
All right, so underrated is one of those conversations that's going to never have a true answer of what it means. There's not an actual definition of that. So when I think of one of the most underrated performances, the most underrated performance for an actor in the 2020s, I'm thinking about a performance that's fantastic, but I'm also thinking about why would I consider it underrated? I'm going with Margot Robbie in Babylon because it's just one of those movies that kind of got swept under the rug because it was just during that era of, post Oscar So White, post we're tired of this over Hollywoodized stuff, all this stuff. But if you actually watch the film, unfortunately not many people didn't do really good at the box office, but that doesn't have any effect on her actual performance, which is the question. Her performance as Nell is just one of those just most captivating performances of all time. And I know immediately you'll be like, oh, but it's in an ensemble cast. That's the word, ensemble cast, and it gets lost in the shuffle. But on the contrary, it's the exact opposite. She literally steals the show. She headlines it. She does a fantastic job. Are other actors fantastic in a good movie when they're all great actors? Absolutely. But does that actually negate the fact that she is the most underrated performance of the entire 2020s? Absolutely, because she's Margot Robbie, and no one's talking about the performance, but they should be.
So I also went with a movie and a performance from 2022. Again, weird minds think alike that we both picked a 2022 movie. But I picked another person who's been steadily cranking out good performances, who has still never really gotten any kind of mainstream recognition for said performances. It's only been recognized in certain small knit groups and communities and whatnot. So I went with Mia Goth in Pearl, and we've seen this new Ty West trilogy. Maxine's obviously in theaters right now. So as far as horror fans know how good she is, but there was a lot of talk, much like with Toni Collette and Hereditary, of trying to get these underground campaigns going to get her, maybe nominated for some more awards than she actually did. She only got nominated for a Spirit Award, and she didn't even win that. And then other than that, it was just like Saturn Awards, little horror awards, so on and whatnot. But it's an absolutely fantastic performance that unfortunately gets swept under the rug in the bigger scheme of things because it's a horror movie, and horror movies just don't get that recognition unless it's somebody that's a mainstream director that does something big in the horror genre.
Yeah, excellent stuff as usual, guys. Can't wait to see how this one shakes out. 5 minutes on the stack when the next competitor begins speaking.
I went first last time, so you first.
Yeah, just swap out.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, my issue with you going Mia Goth and Pearl is I don't think that's underrated. And I don't want to hammer home the semantics of the blah box is accepted. But unfortunately, with a question like this, where underrated is one of those unknown things, I do have to hammer home. We have an actual trilogy centered around Mia Goth as part of this character, as Pearl, as just within this universe. And like you said, everyone was praising her and wanting her to have Oscar, buzz and all that stuff. So that doesn't really constitute as underrated. Margot Robbie is an actual actress where she's in the forefront, but no one was talking about it. So you can say like, oh, but that means it's bad. That's BS. If you watch,
but again, everyone praising her is a weird term for you to use, because it's everybody in these tight horror communities rallying for these performances. He's made these 3 movies because they were cheap to make. They were like $1 million a piece, and they're not exactly blowing up the box office. Only horror fans really know about these movies and know about her performances and know what the hidden gem that Mia Goth is in that movie and in those movies in general. Your movie, you're talking about Margot Robbie, who's an A-list actor who's been nominated twice, who does get recognition every time she does have good performances. But like, your movie was even nominated for 3 Oscars. Like, people recognize that movie as being good for what it is, and we're heaping praise on it. My movie, again, flew under the radar. Again, only if you're in a horror community do you even know about that. Do you know about Mia Goth? And yes, I'm saying it is one of her best performances, and it should be recognized even further outside of the horror community. People, these Oscar committees and these award people should recognize.
If this question is what is the most quote unquote Oscar worthy performance of 2020, sure, we can have a talk, but that's not the question. It's the most underrated. Like kind of what we were talking, my argument for the Tango and Cash thing. It's one of those movies where people paid attention. Like you said, the Oscars did get a vote, and they didn't actually give it their attention. So if anything, if we didn't talk about
it's underrating it by not giving it any kind of attention.
That's essentially what I'm talking about. I actually lost a debate a couple weeks ago to Rue because of the whole My Cousin Vinny thing, of where I was like, it shouldn't have been part of it because it was in the notice of the Oscars. But my whole point is, no one is talking about this film. You literally gave all this praise for Margot Robbie, but if you think about it, no one is discussing Babylon as one of her top films, even though it is one of her best performances. She's literally a character in Hollywood, in New York, or characters from New York and all that stuff, and she doesn't have that Harley Quinn accent because she does such a fantastic job of not falling in that that type.
But I feel like if that performance was that good, it was probably better than Michelle Williams in The Fabelmans, better than Ana de Armas in Blonde. They would have recognized her. Again, a movie that was already on the Oscar radar. They would have recognized her for that.
Fabelmans, Spielberg, and Ana de Armas as Blonde. That's Marilyn Monroe. So that's one of those things. That's just how it goes. And even if that's a wash, that's more of an Oscar thing of like, oh, we're going with a movie already about making movies, and we're going about an actual, classic character and all that era. So it's a wash from the Oscars' eyes. But if you actually pay attention and you watch it without any of the BS that's, underground, Margot Robbie is easily the best performance. Like I said, everything with Mia Goth and Pearl, she is literally known from anyone that knows Mia Goth knows her from Pearl. So that's not underrated. She's literally.
I feel like they know her from X. X put her on the radar.
No, if you actually, X is the film that's all the porn movie, or it's like, hey, we're going to go see that because wow, Tara, I'm the only thing of her character, but her Jenna Ortega is in the movie, and then Mia Goth steals the show, and then she follows it up with Pearl, which is not why it's not underrated.
But it is again, because the only people heaping the praise are these little microscopic groups of people. Again, if it was getting any kind of mainstream attention, which the mainstream critics who did see it liked it, but didn't really go out of their way to see it or really praise it. Your movie did get praise within the reviews. If you look up the actual reviews of it, Margot Robbie is one of the things they praise about the movie. Again, it was nominated for several Oscars. It was recognized, and it was heaped with praise upon the actual mainstream critics. They know Margot Robbie's a good actress, and she's in that A-list. But again, my thing is more of a hidden gem of this underrated thing of like somebody that could really use that bump, much like Toni Collette could have used that bump for Hereditary, but it gets completely ignored.
Once again, you keep utilizing this Oscar stuff as if that's the end all be all of what a great.
I didn't even say Oscar. She didn't even win. I mentioned she didn't even win the damn.
But I'm talking
award,
you're talking about awards. You're using that essentially as your crutch of why it's underrated, and that's just that's a desperate move because, like I said, literally the performance from Margot Robbie, it's not even discussed in her, in her filmography. They're like, oh yeah, she was in Babylon, and
because it wasn't her best performance or even one of her top 5 performances.
It is literally one of her best performances. She literally showcased that she can handle the drug stuff. She doesn't go on. She's literally one of the failing actors or rise of star actors that doesn't feel cheap, like quote unquote A Star Is Born. She has a hard road. She has a hard pass. She has bombastic moments when she literally does the snake, when she pulls the snake venom out of that. That's one of the most, physically demanding scenes that she's done in her entire career, and
she does similar things in The Wolf of Wall Street and I, Tonya. She does
none of that. She does literally just a side piece.
She does the same physical. She does the same physical type of stuff in I, Tonya. Like she's
she's also doing an accent over there, so it literally is different. It shows her.
So an accent just means it's better.
No, what I'm saying, it's range, and that's what I'm saying. When you actually look at the performance, you assume that she's going to be the exact same thing, and she's not. If you actually watch the film, which is why it's underrated.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, very cool. I agree. Very, very cool debate all around. You're closing when you begin, sir.
So once again, I don't want to get deep in the semantics of like, oh, it's not underrated, blah, blah, blah. But what I'm saying is the reason that Pearl is not as underrated, I'm even going to give it to you because it was accepted, but why it's not as underrated as Margot Robbie in that is because the first thing you think of when you think of Mia Goth as an actress, you think of her performance and her character as Pearl in the movie Pearl, not just that trilogy. It literally expands on that, and then it's literally going to grow her career in the future. And you can think of, oh, that trilogy. But as of right now, today, when you think of Mia Goth, you think of Pearl. Literally, Infinity Pool came out just right around the same time or just after that, and no one even talks about that film. Maybe you should even use that as underrated specifically for Mia Goth. When you think of Margot Robbie, she has so many performances that could have been generic based on her experience with the New York accents in Wolf of Wall Street and Joker as Harley, or as in Suicide Squad as Harley Quinn, and she doesn't do any of that, even though she is from the same exact era. It's literally within an ensemble cast, and if you're saying, oh, people stand it out, but it's underrated because not enough people are praising it, not enough people are realizing just the greatness that this fantastic actress of our era, this is one of her top, if not her best performance.
But again, the question, you're making it seem like I'm arguing for her, Mia Goth's best performance. The question is performance from an actress in the 2020s. And again, in the span of actresses that get praise in the 2020s in the mainstream, Mia Goth's name isn't even brought up. It isn't even brought up in the list. When you Google the best actress performances of the 2020s so far, it's not even on the list. It doesn't even show up on the radar because there's a bias against horror movies, because there's a bias against horror performances, unless you're somebody like Kathy Bates in Misery or just where Silence of the Lambs, things like that. That's the only time you ever get mainstream performances when you have a mainstream director doing it, because it's Ty West, because it's Mia Goth, people who are limited to the horror genre as of right now. It doesn't get the praise that it should get, even when it is recognized by certain independent artists. It doesn't even win there. And I'm not saying like, it should have won like 1 million Oscars. I'm just saying it is a better performance than some of the performances that were Oscar nominated that year. I mentioned a few of them. It is a better what she's doing, the characterization that she's doing, but it doesn't get that to that next level because of the community she's put in.
Awesome. Once again, we'll give the judges just a second here to write some stuff down. And I will jot some things down myself. And we will go to the final scheduled question of the evening here. Henry going second on this one. Pez going first in the question that category I know both of you are very. Sorry, I think I froze there for a second, but either which way.
We know what you were about to say. A person that we're both passionate about, Quentin Tarantino. So, yes, that we touch dicks on. Quentin Tarantino. That's
right. Yeah, I will try tip with you guys anytime on that one. What is the best scene in a Quentin Tarantino directed movie?
4 Rooms. Wait.
4 Oh boy. So yeah, here we go. So we wanted to talk about scenes, and even Henry and I talked about that, rather than a movie, so we can just really get nerdy about Tarantino, because that's what we want to do here. We want to get nerdy about stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's so many to choose from. There's not like one correct answer for this thing, which is why it's a fascinating question. So I went with the final confrontation between Beatrix and Bill in Kill Bill Volume 2 is what I actually went with. So basically from when she shows up and sees that Bill has the daughter, and they're kind of sit down at the couch, and then their final fight, if you will. I mean, it's not much of an extended fight, but the whole dynamic of the whole thing. And I'm taking into account the actual direction of everything, the performances that are laid in, the writing of the scene, kind of the total package is what I have here. It's not just just the script in this scene or just the one performance here. It's kind of a conglomeration of kind of everything that's put out there. It's the best of Tarantino. It's a great finale. It resets your expectations for everything. It kind of resets what you thought about for the last 4 hours, etc.
So when you think of Quentin Tarantino, you think of essentially 2 things. You think of fantastic writing and dialogue, and you think of gratuitous action. And neither of our scenes have that, so I just want to get that away. So essentially, we're going toe-to-toe of just what is the best writing and what is the best dialogue. And when you close your eyes right now and you think of what is the best writing scene, the best dialogue scene, that's just my answer, and I'm really confident. Hopefully, I don't blow it because I do have the right answer, so we'll see if I can back it up. That's the Calvin Candy skull scene, Old Ben, when he's describing just the backstory of just the history and all that stuff. And if it's built up perfectly because it's right after Samuel L. Jackson's character gives him just kind of the lowdown of like, yo, they're swindling you. They're having that up. So Leonardo DiCaprio, when you think about deep into this movie, or over 2 hours of this movie, you're like, why is Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie? This is the scene of why it is. When you actually think of top 5 scenes Leonardo DiCaprio has ever done, it's in this scene. And when you think of top 5 Tarantino scenes, number 1, it is this scene because of the fantastic writing and just the emotions that you get out of both fear, excitement, and just awesomeness. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that one was really bad. No, of course it was excellent as always. You guys are doing great. Your 5 minutes starts now.
Oh, I guess I'm up first. Okay. No, I mean, the thing with yours is I'm not going to say it's not a great scene. That would be silly to say. But to me, it's it's going to be great because it's Leo in a Tarantino movie. So it's going to be really good because he hits slam dunks and home runs every single time. What makes my scene great is because it's coming from people like David Carradine, who is the kung fu guy. It's what Tarantino does best, is taking some of these actors that you've forgotten about and getting those amazing performances through his direction and through his writing and resetting your expectations on what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, but sorry, I have Tato down there. So you essentially just kind of built it up for me. You literally just praised my scene of why it's fantastic, why it's the best. I just want to give you a reminder. The question down below is what is the best scene, not as what is the most underrated. Because essentially,
what's a really good scene.
So far,
a great scene.
Yeah, but what I'm saying in terms of how you built up your scene, essentially what you were trying to describe me as what is the most underrated scene. So remind that judges when you're thinking
I haven't even barely gotten into it, but
so
okay, putting words in my mouth.
When you think of the scene, the way when you think of the scene, when you close your eyes, you think of Django Unchained. This is the first thing you think of. When you think of just your movie, it's not even the number 1 scene in your movie. The 1v1 versus her and Daryl Hannah's character, that's already the better scene in that movie. When you think about your franchise, Kill Bill, it's the entire Crazy 88 scene. Plus, I want to build on this fact. I don't want to overhand. Once again, it was accepted, but you're using this logic. The scene you're choosing from when she shows up to Bill's house versus when he dies, that's over 30 minutes. That's not a scene. That's an entire finale. So everything that you have to utilize to kind of build up your scene is from a whole entire finale, whereas mine, it's about a less than 10-minute sequence between all dialogue and this fantastic stuff. Because if I use your logic of my sculpting, I'm going deep into the handshake and the shooting and all that stuff, and I'm not using that. I'm using my actual scene in Django Unchained.
But again, mine is part of a greater scene. It is the finale. It was the climax. It is them coming together because my movie is also longer than yours. It's a 2-part film. So you take that into effect with the ratio. But again, my thing is the total package. It's not just Leo giving a great performance with great dialogue. It's also the camera work in the scene. The way the camera work even allures you into the scene, and you follow Bill and he's weaving this tale, and the camera is weaving a tale with it as you're following him. You almost get sympathy for what he's saying and thinking about, again, resetting what you've already known from what has come before him, using that charisma. Again, it's what I'm talking about with Tarantino, what he does best with Pulp Fiction, what he does best with Jackie Brown, bringing these actors and elevating them. We know Leo's a great actor. I mean, he's already been nominated for Oscars at that point. I think he gives a better performance even in Wolf of Wall Street a year later. So, I mean, like, what you're getting into, and sure, it's a good scene. I'm not saying it's not a good scene, but I'm saying yours is like, it's there, and then we move on, and I disagree. I think there are better scenes in your movie than that.
No, absolutely not. So when you're thinking of your scene, it's from the very beginning, it's the build-up. So everything you're seeing so far, the best parts of your scene that you're having is the emotion and the acting from Uma Thurman. You haven't even talked about that. You're essentially what your premise is.
Thanks for mentioning that Uma Thurman's really good in that scene and her reactions.
Listen to what my point is. I'm giving you that credit there because later all the stuff in it starts to fall off, starts to become anticlimactic. The entire stuff, the actual dialogue between her and Bill, it's literally kind of boring. He shoots her with a truth serum and all that stuff. It's BS in this conversation, and you don't actually care. You don't have the heart. The whole build up to who is Bill, and then you finally get to that. It's now old, this underrated guy that's just is such a niche actor that only the super fans of this genre would care about. In Django Unchained, you have the scene where it's literally just the fear. Once with Calvin Candy, when he has his monologue, when he's talking about the thing, the actual real life thing where he smashes his hand on the glass and he wipes the blood on, that's the stuff that you think of when you think of just Tarantino's filmography in general. And then when you actually have the fear from Dr. Schultz, when he's actually like, can I put my hands on there and grab my billfold and all that stuff? That's the actual fear. We have the shotguns in that, the tension and all that stuff. And the camera does a fantastic job of subtlety where it's handling it. All yours is just
my movie builds
It's
up
too
the
much.
the literal title of Kill Bill, and the great thing of
how much you
resetting
pick
your
all those
expectations for
scenes.
that, and building up to that is by the time we get done with Bill's monologue and the reasoning behind what he did, you almost don't even want her to kill Bill. She's even second guessing her reasoning to kill Bill. It's brilliant writing about how you rethink the entire 4 hours that has come before it, and you almost again have sympathy for this character who you remember shot a pregnant woman. I mean, it's kind of amazing what he does in weaving the tale with
There's a
fucking Superman
reason that
allegory.
when you ask people to rank Tarantino movies and Kill Bill Volume 2 is at the bottom, is because this
That
fight
has
story is so anticlimactic.
that's completely irrelevant to the question. We're not talking about best Tarantino.
No, it is. What I'm making a point. It's so irrelevant because there's nothing about this movie that's fantastic. And if you're saying the best scene,
nothing about this movie is fantastic.
Yes,
Oh my
because
God,
listen,
stop.
what you're saying now, you see, look how defensive you're getting because you're actually not listening to the points because you're so desperate to like have little baby things. When you actually look at this film, there's nothing about it, and the finale of what your film is, it needs to be the highlight. You need to end on a bang, and that doesn't do it. It's anticlimactic. So all
We've
the build up
already
you're saying,
had that with the
everything that
Crazy
you're praising
88.
about this is from
That's
what we
the
got
action
before.
scene. The brilliant thing about it is he resets that, and we're actually doing.
Again, you're saying
something
underrated. You're saying, oh, it's better than people give it credit for.
I had to make sure to throw some wavy arms in that one because it could have gotten crazy.
I'm a good player producer. I probably could have did the timers too, motherfuckers.
Excellent. We will see how this one comes home in the final minutes. Austin.
That's it.
So again, mine is the total package and what Tarantino is all about. And again, reviving these classic actors, giving the great performances, having the great writing that again makes you think about everything that's come beforehand, and maybe even twist what you had thought of what these characters are, and really twisting that character perception. That's what we get all of that with Bill. With Uma Thurman, who's amazing in that scene, the truth serum allows her to act with her eyes, and it allows her to give one of her best performances and to really get that reactionary acting. And then having it's where it's a fight scene, but it's not even really a fight scene. We already had that action in Kill Bill Volume 1. We had the Crazy 80s. You're not going to top that because she fought 88 dudes. And that's not the point of the scene. The point of the scene is for her to kill Bill. But again, the scene, it's great, is you don't even know if you actually want her to kill Bill. And that's why it works as a finale. It works as a really satisfying conclusion to the whole thing. Again, your movie's great. Django Unchained is great. The stuff with Christoph Waltz, the opening scene is better. The stuff in the town where he's negotiating the kill of the Wanda thing is better. There are better scenes in that movie. It's already great. We already know that.
All right. And the question is, what is the best scene in a Tarantino movie? So I'm glad that everything you're saying about mine is great, where everything that I'm saying about yours is underwhelming. And everything that you're kind of expressing just in your words, the words you're saying, essentially are pretty much underrated. It's like you're trying to convince us to give it a second chance instead of reminding us of why it's number one. And that's why the Calvin Candy, the skull scene in Django Unchained is literally number one. If you ask the average person on the street who's seen every single Tarantino movie, the first one they're going to pick is going to be just the skull scene. And if we actually had to go head to head, they'll be like, wait, what scene is he even talking about? Because when you close your eyes and you think of Kill Bill, the franchise, you literally said it in your closing that you had scenes that were done better later, or you didn't say better, but you said they was done great and you can't top it. And that was the Crazy 88 fight scene. But you also have the one-on-one versus that. But guess what? There's a better Beatrix Bill scene at the very beginning when we're at the actual the church, and we're actually at that stuff where they actually finally introduced the Bill, and that scene is better because now you have the tension, you have the black and white, you have the creative choices, and that's better. My scene, everyone knows it's great because it's the best, and you already even said it's great.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, that was the scheduled opening. I'm going to let Henry look in the background there to see if the judges are ready to go with all four of their things.
Yeah. Just give a thumbs up just whenever you have all your thoughts gathered, however you're going to approach it. Once again, just a reminder, you won't get judged for anything you don't say. You'll just get judged for things you do. And you're not saying judge, but I'm saying you have the potential that, it's like if you walk into a minefield, if you walk in the minefield, you might step on a mine. Don't walk in the minefield. So once again, I'm going to be nice. I know Pez will be nice, but Jay might not always be nice, and he's eventually going to debate again. So I kind of have to set the precedent now. So overall, Pez, thank you, shout out for doing this. I know this was just fun and stressful. I have to pee, so I always talk a lot when I have to pee. Tato, shout out you. You did a fantastic job hosting. We're at the main round. We're under an hour, or we finished the main rounds. We're at under an hour, and that's always the goal. So judge behind the scene. You guys ready? You guys still need a little time to put stuff together. No rush. I don't care. That's kind of why I'm doing this. I actually appreciate you guys taking longer.
I want to throw up. I'm going back to the screen question to make sure I had the right person with the right person. Put those pictures again.
Okay. Hold on, I'll go first. God damn it.
I think I do. I just want to make sure I'm not
This
giving
is-
somebody
this
else
is
credit for a
Pez's.
different role.
This is Pez's.
This is Pez's.
Allison Brie, Bill Skarsgård,
Lipnicki.
Austin
Okay,
Butler, and
here.
Lipnicki.
Yeah, I understand because there's 8 people, so just make sure it's that crew, and then that's Henry's.
Lordy, Chalamet. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I was giving the right person to the right person. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay, and then here's just all the questions. Just a reminder. What if Arnie slide blah blah blah? Obviously, just for writing purposes, that's how it is. Cast a Marine Prescott prequel, so essentially pitch however we approached it. You guys were there.
Mm-hmm.
This is good for the future to do this for other matches. What is the most underrated performance from an actress in the 2020s? And last but not least, what is the best scene in a Tarantino directed film? So, I will let Rue go first because he's the guest of honor, and then I will let Brian close, and then Tato in the middle. So, once again, whenever you guys are ready, let me know, and then kind of go about it however you want.
You want me to reveal all 4 or one at a time?
So one at a time, and then reveal. It's treated like I just think of like dancing. So you just reveal who you picked after. You give your reasons for question 1, who you picked, your reasons for questions 2, and then I'll tally up the scores and all that stuff. And
All right. So question 1 with the Arnie and Sly flip. I really liked how both of y'all. I liked the reasons for your picks. You both did a really good job stating why you swapped who you swapped. I went with the person though, or actually I'm going to flip it. I didn't give the point to the person who I think didn't do enough attacking. Their attacks didn't really work for me, or when they did attack, the other person was able to defend it a lot better. So for me, for question 1, I went Henry. I don't think the Kurt Russell blow worked at all, especially when Henry came back with what Kurt Russell does do. And I don't think Pez really came back with enough about why it's not the script instead of the character. So cool.
And then question.
Going another 2 or keep going?
Yeah, all you. Yeah, one person at a
Okay.
time. Time. Yeah, sorry.
2. So question 2, Screamcast. They both were really cool. I actually liked each of your attacks against each other. So it kind of came down to the end of it, kind of like everything after the pitches kind of was a wash. And it went back to in the beginning because all the attacks were kind of equal. And I was like tallying up this is a good attack. Oh, take it away. This is a good attack. Take it away. Take it. And it ended up being basically back at the beginning who basically pitched who pitched a more interesting cast based on what they said, not necessarily if it will work, but what they said convinced me more after the wash of the attacks because it was a good debate. I went with Pez for number 2 based on that. Number 3, the underrated performances from an actress. I'm just going to drop that off. I think Henry took that one pretty damn strong in terms of the fact that I really liked the argument that Margot Robbie is such a great actress and this one doesn't come out. This one isn't the one talked about. And the attack about the trilogy that she has and then slamming it home with, you should have picked Infinity Pool. It kind of knocked it out of the park.
But Infinity Pool sucks, so I didn't pick that.
Hey, this goes to my other point. Pez had a really good point when he said in the entirety of the best actresses of the 2020s, Mia Goth is not mentioned. And I was like, damn, that's a good point. But you brought it up so damn late, and it's a little too late because your whole argument is about the horror community, and you're stuck on that. And I didn't think the horror community thing worked after Henry did it. If you would have focused on she's not mentioned against actresses of the 2020s, I think you would have had a lot of better chance because you hooked me on that. But I was like, damn, dude, you didn't really argue that. And then I'll make this one a little quicker. For the 4th one, I'll be honest, I was having a little trouble time picking which one. And in my head, I was like, ooh, who's reminding me of their scene? And I'll tell you this, Henry, you shot yourself in the foot when you said, if you ask somebody in the street, what scene are you talking about? That's me. I don't know what your skull scene is. And before you said that, I was like, honestly, I've seen both of these films. I remember Pez's scene, and he's reminding me of what it is. I kind of remember Henry's scene. I need him to talk about it. and you didn't talk about it much. You kind of talked about it like we already knew what it was. And then when you said, oh, they say whose is that? It was the opposite for me, and it kind of was like, damn, Henry, you're wrong. It's the exact opposite, so I had to give it to Pez.
Alrighty then. Yep, sorry, I was just taking some notes for my own posterity. Yeah, every single one of these rounds was super tight. I cannot fault any judge for going any way on either of them. So just for what I've got, Pez got the first one for me. I thought he had some good answers to Henry's questions on that one. Like Henry posed a solid question and Pez posed a solid answer. So that one,
The tension
I don't
is
know.
gone.
Hey,
You're
Okay.
back.
very awesome. Okay, I'll be quick. Henry, on the second one, I heard more just on the cast in general, and also that Scream 4 blow, despite being like a little cheeky, was also really solid, genuinely as well. Henry gets the third point for me as well. I just once again heard a bit more about the performance in and of itself and why it's underrated on that one. And then for the fourth point, I also went with Henry again. That was super tight, but Henry did just kind of big dick his way, big diesel energy into like, hey, this is the thing. You're admitting that it's not even the best scene in yours, and you just came back a little too late, Pez, with the these are the better scenes from. It was just, yeah, little bit too late. But great match all around, guys. We will go to Brian.
All right. So the Arnie Sly question, for me, questions like this, although it's not a pitch question, it's essentially a pitch. I'm like, we're making a new movie. We're replacing a character. And for me, that kind of question a lot of time comes down to which one would I rather see? And I thought that Henry pitched a better job for me of why I would want to see Tango and Cash with Arnie in it. I think Sly could be okay in an End of Days, but I don't know if it would improve it that much. So Henry got my point there. In Scream, it was kind of a toss up for me because I liked like two of each of your people. So really, when I had to try and come up with a tiebreaker on like which one I thought should get the win, it really did come down to the Alison Brie thing. I mean, because as when he said it, my first thought was, wait, she's in 4, but I was going to ignore that because if it's not brought up in the debate, I'm not going to consider it. But then Henry brought it up, how it would distract, it would confuse people who have seen the franchise, and Pez's defense was just, I forgot. So that became a tiebreaker for me. So Henry got my point on the second one. Third one for underrated. Pez did a really good job of talking about why Mia Goth is the more underrated actress of the 2020s. The problem is the question is the underrated performance, a specific movie. And I think Henry did a better job of saying why. Well, Margot Robbie has plenty of acclaim, and she's gotten award nominations and things. For this role, she was ignored and it deserved more. Whereas it was Mia Goth, as he said, she is kind of best known for Pearl, and she got some attention for her performance in Pearl. So even though she is definitely the more underrated actress of the 2020s, as far as performance, it would be Margot Robbie. And the last one, excuse me, as somebody who doesn't remember either one of these scenes very well, it's been a while since I've seen either of these movies. I kind of needed you both to paint a picture of your scene for me. And while Henry made some good hits about like how Pez said, that you can't top the scene from the previous film, things like that. I do think though that Pez was able to tell me more about his scene and why it was so good. And with Henry's, I didn't get a whole lot of reminding me like what was in the scene, what happened in the scene, what made it so good, aside from just Leo's performance. So I gave that last point to Pez.
I tallied up, so I'll just take over the hosting thing. So
sure, go ahead. I tally too.
Oh, then go ahead, take it over. I'm sorry.
Alrighty, yep. With a final score of 8-4, Henry Confidential. Yeah, a tighter game than that scorecard lets on, I think, but excellent match. Pez, definitely nothing to hang your hat on. Henry, we will go to you first. How do you feel?
Yeah, this is one of those things. I don't want to sound cocky, but it's one of those when you go into a question. I felt like I had the Margot Robbie Pearl versus Mia Goth in the bag just based on just how I genuinely personally feel about Babylon. I know that he probably doesn't like that movie, so it was harder for him to even talk about it because he probably didn't rewatch it. I actually really love Babylon as well as, really liking Pearl, so I just was really confident. The Scream one, I just knew that it just depends on how we approach just, whatever, and I just feel like that was a pretty good 50-50. I didn't actually watch End of Days. I did watch a reaction to it, so I at least had a little bit to say, but so I was able to get an idea of what of that. But I actually really do like Tango and Cash, and I'm not even joking. The reason I don't love it is because of Stallone, so everything I did say was genuinely from the heart. I wasn't just BSing that, even though Stallone is also one of my favorite actors. And then the Tarantino one, I got to stop going BDE on questions because every time I do, I just always lose. Fucking blind spotting. How did you not win that? Fuck you, Rue. But yeah, this is one of those ones where Pez just obviously made me sweat. I have to pee from drinking this thing, and he made it worse. He just kept punching me in the bladder, cheap shots. But I had a blast. I'm always gonna love playing Pez just in the future, whether it's kind of a chill one like this, very kind of vague, or something where we hammer home, we write fucking Chad Rain Man level notes or whatever. Shout out Chad. I mentioned him last one, and he messaged me. He's like, "Wow, you're giving me shade." Yeah, because I'm gonna debate you eventually after Brian beats you. But yeah, so this was a blast. Shout out Pez, he's the man. Shout out judges, Rue and Brian. You guys did a fantastic job. Future judging in the future, take notes. That's exactly how you judge. All three of them did a fantastic job, even better than me because I talk too much. Go ahead and go over to Pez.
Yeah, fucking
I lost on a technicality because I forgot Alison Brie is like 11th build in Scream 4, and I hate that movie, and it's the worst Scream movie, and I didn't fucking realize she was even like a part of that cast. So I feel like I lost on a technicality because I feel like otherwise it's a good pick for an actress. But whatever, it is what it is. I guess that's my bad. If this had been more of a battleground thing and I had done hardcore research on everything, whatever. Because other than that, it was like 2-2 for both Brian and Rue, and then you had 3-1 or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like I lost on a technicality. Other than that, it was
solid asterisk on this one.
Yeah, it is what it is. But it was a fun debate. Like, me and Henry can always, you can attest to this, Tato. We always bring it, against each other, whether it's against each other or just in other, debates or whatever. I didn't do like super hardcore prepping for this, but I still think with the format, you don't have to because it's not as much time. But yeah, you get as many points as you can within a minute, so can't always say what I want to say within a minute. And then when Henry big dicks you in the 5 minutes, it's hard to get in your other points. So that's fine. But it is what it is.
All righty. Definitely anyone else? That's cool. Thank you very much. I'm Tato, for Henry, for Pez, for Rue, for Brian. Thank you all for watching. We love you very much. Good night, everybody.